let's talk about this press conference, because I thought this press conference was very funny. I'll be honest. So, another pulling out the chair for Netanyahu moment, done by Donald Trump. Yeah, they're like real best friends. It's funny. It's crazy. Literally, like, all these fucking stupid dipshit Trump supporters always complain about, like, being sent off to fight wars for Israel, and this is their main fucking president. Looking at you, Asmongold. America first, but Israel firstest. The most first, actually. Anyway, what do we got here from the Big Don himself? We're gonna speed this bad boy up. I'm gonna go 2 times speed on this. Because this presser, real wacky. Real wacky stuff going on here.
Special person. I dealt with him for a long time. Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel.
We love him.
Had lunch together. We had meetings together, along with his very capable staff. And I think we've come up to some pretty good solutions and conclusions. And
so you want to know? Okay, the funniest thing is, like, even Israel got tariffed in all of these, like, reciprocal tariffs, which is really, really funny. Like, Turkey got, like, lower tariffs in comparison to Israel, which was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen ever. Keep in mind, these tariffs don't go into effect quite yet, but, and Israel's economy is already deep in the shitter. Yeah, it's pretty funny. What's up, Becky? Says hi. The fucking penguins.
You working a little bit after this, and then I assume you're going back home. This is a quick stop, in and out. But we appreciate you being here, and we are a friend of Israel, as you know. I would say that
we love Israel, folks. Our favorite place on the planet.
And it's an honor to be so, and to be so brought up. Many friends in Israel. They are not in an easy area. It doesn't go easy, but we are helping them. And likewise, they've been helping us very much. And so we'll see how it all works out. But we had great discussions today, I think.
Well, thanks for the follow. Appreciate that, bud.
On the obvious subject of Iran, and also the less obvious subject with respect to Israel and its trade.
So, yeah, if I recall correctly, Diego Garcia has been receiving a lot of, which is it's an island not too far away from Iran. A bunch of, like, B-2 bombers have been stationed there, for reasons. We can only think of the reasons, but, yeah, where they bombed them, Afghanistan and Pakistan from. Exactly, Boy Meets Mini.
And I think the Prime Minister is going to tell you a little bit about trade and what they're doing for the United States. So I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Benjamin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
We love Benjamin.
Mr. President, I want to first thank you for
one of the modern Hitlers of our time.
You've been a remarkable friend of the state of Israel. You stand by us. You're standing with us. You are a great, great champion of our lives.
By the way, keep in mind, hey, all the, like, dumbasses who fell for it again, these two have known each other for a very long time. They've been friends for quite a while before Trump really started getting, I guess, into politics, quote unquote.
And you actually do things that you say you do. And I think the people respect that enormously. I certainly do, and people of Israel do. And I think the Jewish people do as well. We just saw you representative in the Department of Justice fighting anti-Semitism, standing up for Israel in international forums. I just want to know from the heart. It's deeply... All
these damn Gentiles and fucking in the Trump administration fighting against anti-Semitism by, deporting a bunch of anti-Zionist Jews. Yeah, well, that is true, Boy Meets Mini. He is a big long-time friends with the Adelsons. Why do you think they gave him so much money? Because they also did, like the Zionist freaks that they are, they also got exactly what they wanted, so.
Deeply appreciate it. As you said, we had the opportunity to talk to you about many subjects. First, if I can mention tariffs, the subject of some interest today. I can tell you that I said to the President of France something. We will eliminate the trade deficit with the United States. We intend to do it very quickly. We think it's the right thing to do. And we're going to also eliminate trade barriers, a variety of trade barriers that have been put up unnecessarily. And I think Israel can serve as a model for many countries who ought to do the same.
Here's the fucking thing again, like, because the basis of the calculations of the tariff rate was, like, trade barriers and all this other, like, foreign trade, like, in the trade deficits, the foreign trade barriers. The White House, broadly speaking, never has really provided any of the evidence. Neither did Scott Bessent, which is the Treasury Secretary. He's provided, like, none of the basis of the evidence for the calculations for as to how it was, like, put together. Like, so people still have, like, broadly speaking, no idea how any of these rates were calculated. It's just like, there's a reason why people think it's just like random bullshit. Because let's be honest, it really is.
I recognize the position of the United States that says, we're allowing other countries to put tariffs on us, but we don't put tariffs on them. And I'm a free trade champion, and free trade has to be fair trade. And I think that's basically the position that you have put forward, Mr. President. We are going to eliminate the tariffs, and rapidly. I had the opportunity to speak to Secretary Ludwig yesterday. We talked about how we could affect this quickly, and I hope to bring a solution very quickly. We're not talking about intentions. We're not talking about just words. We're talking about results. Okay? Those results are going to come. That's
like again, there's like really not much else to say here, because again, the basis for the tariffs are just complete nonsense. Like, why do we think that we're getting tariffed by this much? I don't know. Fucking bibbity boppity floopity foppity boobity woobity 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 woobity.
Thank you very much. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Mr. President, what about
Magic.
Well, we spoke about not only the hostages, but about Gaza. The hostages obviously is a...
Oh man, the
story
fucking
of
hostages.
agony. I speak to family.
There was like a recent, like not that long ago, there was a hostage exchange because a bunch of them were dead because, again, the Israelis bombed them. They died because they got bombed by Netanyahu, because why? He constantly refused like all of the fucking ceasefire agreements. There was a tangible, actual like ceasefire agreement saying like, here's the step process, what we can do. You want to know the person who got in the way of those every single time? That motherfucker Netanyahu. He's the one who got in the way every single fucking time, saying like, no, because again, I've talked about this before. Why does Netanyahu want to maintain the war cabinet for as long as he wants? Because there's been like no elections because of this. Because he was slated to have an election relatively soon. And also, he's broadly speaking quite unpopular. People do not like Benjamin Netanyahu. He's like even more unpopular now than he was before because of the handling of the hostages. Like, there was protest movements in fucking Israel of all fucking places. It's ridiculous. But he has a fucking huge corruption scandal, and he was slated to go to court because of those corruption scandals. But guess what? October 7th happened. He assembles the war cabinet. Oh, it looks like I have to stay in power now because of this. And he wants to do everything possible to maintain it for as long as possible. Like, that's really about it. I mean, that's true, but there's also polls showing 80% of Israelis want genocide. They just want a less corrupt genocider-in-chief. Oh, yeah, boy meets Minnie. It's not about the fact that Israelis are protesting him because, they have a problem with the genocide. They don't give a fuck. Yeah, they want, like, to turn brown babies into mulch. They don't give a shit, right? Ultimately. They're all like, anyone who fucking lives in Israel, broadly speaking, are, like, inundated with such a ridiculous amount of propaganda that they become, like, indoctrinated into complete fucking monsters. It's quite fucking sad, to be quite honest. So it's fairly obvious that, yeah, they just want to bomb the shit out of all the Palestinians. Like, yeah. But, yeah, the main problem that they have is, like, Benjamin Netanyahu is, like, extremely fucking corrupt. And, like, none of them are, like, going to be good about the issues of Gaza or the West Bank. They just want to kill people. That's really about it. It's just a wretched country. Get rid of it. Try again.
I spoke to them yesterday. Spoke to another one when I was in Hungary before I came here. I speak to them every day. They're in agony. The hostages are in agony. We want to get them all out. Steve Witkoff, President Trump's very able representative, helped us get a deal.
Yeah, the mythical fucking hostages that still exist within the Gaza Strip. But it doesn't matter. Like, I've already explained why.
Getting all the hostages out, but also eliminating the evil tyranny of Hamas in Gaza.
True, real. You're definitely going to do that. Oh, man.
And the president put forward a bold vision, which we discussed as well, including the countries that might be amenable and are amenable to accepting Palestinians of their free choice if they choose to go there. And I think that's the second thing that we discussed. But also,
let's go ethnic cleansing. Woo! Oh man, it's time. Like, of their free will. What if none of them want to leave, Benjamin? Like what do you do then? Okay, like maybe like what? 100,000 leave or some shit. There's still like about 1.5 million fucking Palestinians in Gaza. What do you do with those guys? Force them to get out? Well, we want to do fucking Nakba 2 Electric Boogaloo? Is that the plan? Like, okay, dude.
Just getting quite on top. We also discussed the situation in Syria. We've had neighborly relations with Turkey that have deteriorated, and we don't want to see Syria being used by anyone, including Turkey, as a base for attacking Israel. Turkey is a country that has a great relationship with the United States. The president has a relationship with the leader of Turkey.
I'm assuming it's because, like, so recently, is Israel, the IDF has been making movements into the southern parts of Syria, because they are talking about, like, oh man, we think that the Druze need to have some kind of autonomous independence from the state of Syria, because there's been a bunch of, like, skirmishes and bombings that the current government is doing in there because of, like, I want to say it's because of some rebel movements, more than likely. So Israel's just incredulously trying to use the Druze population, which is mostly in and around the southern parts of Syria, as a buffer zone, because they think, like, maybe HTS wants to, like, because that's the current people who are in power when they ended up ousting Bashar al-Assad. They think that they're gonna, like, bomb Israel or something. Like, I'm trying to, like, think, what is the basis for this? Like, why would the Turks want to bomb the Israelis? Is it because of the genocide? I don't really know. Like why? That's the question. I'm not 100% certain on that one.
Discussed how we can avoid this conflict in a variety of ways, and I think we can have a better interlocutor than the President of the United States for this purpose. And of course, we also discussed Iran, but we're both united in the goal that Iran does not ever get nuclear weapons, but it can be done diplomatically in a full way, the way it was done in Libya.
Yeah, it was done diplomatically. It was called the JCPOA, aka the Iran nuclear deal. And who ripped it up? The guy you're sitting beside, because he hates Obama. Anything Obama did, I'm just gonna tear it up. And guess what? Every time the International Nuclear Energy Association went in to inspect to make sure that the Iranians were not creating weapons-grade uranium, they passed that test every single time. I think the test was done about 11 times, and the Iranians passed with flying colors each and every single time. So they were following to the tenets of the deal, because they wanted sanctions relief first and foremost from both the EU and the United States, and that's what they got, and their economy was able to prosper more and more as a result of it, and they were not pursuing a nuclear weapon. Trump randomly just rips up the deal. The Europeans try to do anything possible to be like, can we, like, restore this in any way, shape, or form? That falls through in of itself. Because, again, why did Trump do this? Well, because he hates Obama, and he's doing it for the behest of his butt buddy over here. Because, again, what do the Israelis want more than anything? I'm talking about the broader state here. Oh, they just want to kill brown people. Like, that's honestly, it doesn't really get any more simple than that. They just want to kill brown people because they're a bunch of freakazoid racists. Let's be honest here. Zionists, freaks. They just want to kill people. That's it. Let's be quite frank here. I don't think it's anything ridiculous to say that Israel has been clamoring for this war for God knows how long, because they know they could probably drag the United States in on the war, because there's a lot of people within the establishment of the United States who have been wanting war with Iran for ages. And it's going to be a complete disaster. Like, if you thought Afghanistan was bad, oh boy, Iran would be like Afghanistan on crack. It would be way fucking worse if there was a war in there. If there was, like, some kind of invasion of Iran, because guess what? You thought, like, the mountains in Afghanistan were bad. Iran is mostly mountains, and they are big mountains. You can hide a lot of stuff in those mountains, and you don't think that the Iranians are prepared for that? Please, they definitely are. They probably have seen this eventuality coming, so they're prepared, and it's going to be this has been sort of, like, talked about ad nauseum, but, like, if the war were to happen, like, it would be bad. Like, really bad. But, you know, Trump, very well known peace candidate, the anti-war candidate. Real and true.
I think that would be a good thing, but whatever happens, we have to make sure that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. That's the end of my speech.
We're having direct talks with Iran. and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting. We'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious. And the obvious is not something that I want to be involved with, or frankly, that Israel wants to be involved with if they can avoid it. So we're going to see if we can avoid it.
Doing the obvious. What do they mean? What does he mean by that? It's like the thing that iDubbbz talked about, you know, in his video where like Trump said we're gonna do a job with it. It's like, what do you mean by the obvious? It's just the fucking stupid mob boss mentality that he fucking has. It's so goofy.
But it's getting to be very dangerous territory. And hopefully those talks will be successful, and I think it would be in Iran's best interest if they are successful.
I wonder why they're so dangerous,
Trump. Talks on a lot of things. I appreciate very much what you said about the tariffs. We've been ripped off and taken advantage of by many countries over the years, and can't do it anymore. Just can't do it anymore. Can't be the stupid people anymore. And it's all because of the people that sat in the seat right here. Not your seat, but the seat. They allowed things to happen to our country that they shouldn't have allowed to happen. On trade and other things, many other things. I mean, look at what's happened with our last president. We allowed millions of people to come into our country with an open border. Who would want an open border?
First off, not millions of people. That's just a lie. Also, why was there a recent migration wave that fucking happened? Oh, because of what you did. You are the one who slapped very heavy sanctions on Venezuela after your failed coup attempt with Juan Guaido and like 3 dudes in a fucking trench coat getting spotted out by Venezuelan fucking fishermen. You got fucking salty about it, and you decided to slap some of the harshest fucking sanctions, causing the collapse of the Venezuelan economy, which went into hyperinflation as a result of those sanctions, because unfortunately the Venezuelan economy is purely oil-based. That got fucking completely ripped to shreds, and it caused a migration wave of Venezuelans coming up to the US. Whoa. Crazy. You're the one who caused that. You did that. It wasn't even millions of Venezuelans that came up. How many Venezuelans came up? Number of migrants during Biden administration. How many came up even? So this is from the House of Budget Committee. Biden's border bust. What the fuck is this? This is from the House Oversight Committee. Under President Biden's watch, there's been over 8 million migrant encounters nationwide, 6.7 million of which have been at the southern border. Probably tens of thousands at most. Yeah. And they're saying, I have no idea. This seems like a random fucking source. What does the Washington Post have to say about this? Oh, right, because of... I don't want to fucking pay for the whatever the fuck. BBC article. Since January 2021, when Biden came into office, there have been more than 10 million encounters. About 8 million came over the southwest land border with Mexico. Under the Trump administration, there were 2.4 million encounters on this border. And then encounters fell off as arrivals slowed because of the pandemic. Okay. Question, what do they mean by arrivals here? What do they mean by encounters, right? Because that can mean, like, people who have done multiple asylum claims, right? What is that? What does that mean? U.S. border officials record encounters with migrants. These include people who have attempted to cross illegally, and people who have tried to enter legally but were deemed inadmissible. Oh, so they just complete... Oh, okay. So what he thinks are millions of people crossing the border are the encounters. Okay, so he's lying, or he's not telling the full truth. So crossing attempts. We don't even know how many times per person who attempted. Exactly. So the numbers of him saying that millions upon millions of people have crossed the border it's hogwash. It's meaningless. because it attempts. People have probably applied multiple times, but because since the U.S. immigration courts are so underfunded and chock full of people coming through, because again, why was there an immigration wave? Why was there a migration wave? Because of shit he did during his first term in office. Whoa, crazy, ridiculous. A bunch of people fucking came in, or attempted to come in, and now he's trying to say, oh, it's because there was millions of crossings that occurred. You know, again, like I said before, him causing a problem and then coming up with the stupidest, dumbest solutions to try to come up with that problem. You know, causing political turmoil for the next predecessor, so then he can use it for political points when he gets back in. Typical. How many migrants, number of migrants that got temporary protected status, a temporary protection during Biden administration? How many got those? So this is by Pew, and it's saying about 1.2 million immigrants in the U.S. are either eligible for or receiving temporary protected status. Okay, so eligible for. That doesn't mean they're receiving it. Immigrants with or new eligibility for TPS. And in 2023, it was 472,000 from Venezuela. And in 2021, it was about 240,000 from Venezuela. Okay. Haiti, about 165,000. El Salvador, also 185,000. Hey, why is El Salvador so unstable? There was a coup there not too long ago. Whoops. In 2008. And then for a bunch of other countries that are listed here, it's low thousands for the most part. Some in the hundreds. Totaling of about 1.2 million. But these are immigrants with or newly eligible for TPS. So these are ones who are eligible for TPS. They haven't been necessarily granted TPS and necessarily brought into the country, but okay. So they came from 16 countries. Federal immigration officials may grant TPS for up to 18 months based on conditions of immigrants' home countries, and they may repeatedly extend this eligibility if dangerous conditions in those countries persist. Biden administration cited dangerous conditions in Cameroon, Myanmar, Syria, and Venezuela when it recently expanded TPS protections to immigrants from those countries. The recent TPS expansions continue the Biden's administration's efforts to broaden the program. Estimated 490,000 U.S. immigrants from Venezuela, Cameroon, Myanmar, and Syria are newly eligible for TPS. Okay. I should probably bring the source itself for what I'm looking at here. Give me there we go. Some TPS recipients have lived in the U.S. for decades. Oh, wait, so does this... So I'm assuming... Okay, so this list should account for the recent migration wave. Okay. Makes sense. To be granted TPS, applicants must file deadlines, pay a fee, prove they have lived in the U.S. continuously. Once Department of Homeland Security... So this is just explaining the sort of minutia of how it works. I just mostly wanted to see the numbers. So, about 500,000 here. And about 1.2 million immigrants in the U.S. are either eligible for or receiving temporary protected status. So, for the most part... And yes, it does break them down by country. Right here, Boy Meets Mini. So, he's technically not wrong. Very, very technically accurate. But these are people in the U.S. are either eligible for or receiving TPS. So they already brought these people in who may be eligible for or are receiving it. They don't necessarily have TPS. So they've been granted asylum because they more than likely have made asylum claims, and the courts were just like, okay, we'll let you in based into a temporary protected status. So, okay, he's not technically wrong, but these are all people that were processed by TPS. They paid the fee, and they got processed by the courts. That's the system working as intended. They weren't just let in, like he's saying. Again, ask yourself why this is. Latin America is geographically closer to the U.S. than the Middle East. Most Syrian refugees went to the EU. You're exactly correct, Boy Meets Mini. And I've already talked about why there was a huge wave of Venezuelan migrants that came in. It's because of the sanctions. Now, here's the problem. Biden didn't get rid of those sanctions, so guess what? The migration waves continued as the Venezuelan economy degraded more and more and more. Biden could have done something and just gotten rid of the sanctions, but he wasn't going to do that because Biden is a cuck and he sucks. But to say that Biden is the main reason for as to why a bunch of migrants came in via temporary protected status, which is a legal process, or, why a bunch of immigrants who are able to receive that asylum, well, because this is basically the asylum claim system, right? Something which is granted to people by international law. To say that it's just like, oh, yeah, Biden just kind of like willy-nilly let all these people in. No, that's not how that works exactly. He didn't willy-nilly let them all in. That's a lie.
Stupid is that. But he allowed millions and millions of people, and of the millions, and I think it was 21 million people, but let's say 3 of them were serious criminals, serious murderers. And
so, yeah, I now understand where he got the 21 million number from. No. 21.6 million people are eligible or are receiving temporary protected status. And these are migrants who have come in throughout probably decades upon decades of migration. That's what he's talking about. No, they didn't come in all during the Biden administration. That's a lie.
Drug dealers and gang members and people from jails, all the jails emptied out right into our country, right along the open border on Mexico, generally the Mexico. Okay, they came
and he thinks like people claiming asylum are like rapists. They're all like from prisons. No. How does he know that? More than likely, he probably read the report, took the fucking... What am I saying? He didn't read shit. He didn't read anything at all. He more than likely saw the number. Someone probably told him what the actual number is, lied about it, and he's just running along with it because it suits him politically. That's why.
But generally speaking, on the southern border. And what a shame it is that we are now working very hard to get them out, get the criminals out, get the murderers out.
Yeah, it's just not true. He's just lying.
The drug dealers, the mentally insane, get them out. They dropped the mentally insane in our country too. And this was all done by the Biden administration. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, because again, he's associating like people who claimed asylum with people from mental asylums, like insane asylums, which is just that's not how that's just not how it works.
And we have to work so hard, and then we have judges that try and protect these people, but they didn't protect us when the people were being let in. But to get them out is never easy with these people. So
yeah, because again, like I said before, immigration court, they went through the courts. They were eligible for TPS. They were granted that, and they were allowed to settle in the U.S. That's how it works.
I think we're doing a great job. The border is the best it's ever been, even as strong as it was. I had a great solid border. I think it might even be tougher right now and stronger. So people are coming into our country, but they're coming in legally. We have a legal process, and we have that moving along properly because we need people to come into our country, but we want people that can love our country and cherish our country. So that's where we are. And with that, any questions?
The market today, would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that. We have many countries that are coming to negotiate deals with us, and they're going to be fair deals. And in certain cases, they're going to be paying substantial tariffs. They'll be fair deals. As you know, I spoke this morning with the Prime Minister of Japan, and we had a very good conversation. They're coming. And I said, one thing, you're going to have to open up your country because we sold no cars, like 0 cars in Japan. And they said...
So yeah, part of the reason why Trump is doing his stupid fucking idiotic goddamn tariffs, you know, is because they want to fucking try to incentivize other countries to buy shitty American cars that are too big for their roads, do not fire with their fucking like fly with their sort of like transportation systems. There's a reason why Japan, why Europe doesn't buy American cars and don't want American companies to operate in like the EU or Japan, because they fucking suck. Their business models are shit. They don't want them there. Period. End of story. They tried to have ventures there and they failed miserably. And yeah, I guess, you know, boy meets mini, yeah, you don't cherish the country enough.
Sold millions of cars into our country. They don't really take our agriculture a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Just don't make shitty products and then maybe people will buy them. Whoa, crazy. I know. Ridiculous.
Just to keep us slightly happy, but they don't take what they're supposed to be taking. So we have a great relationship with Japan. We're going to keep it that way, but they're coming in to meet, and other countries are coming in. With China, as you know, against my statement, they put a 34% tariff on above what their ridiculous tariffs were already. And I said if that tariff isn't removed by tomorrow at 12 o'clock, we're putting a 50% tariff on above the tariffs that we put on. So they've got...
Aren't they already at a 54% tariff? Jesus fucking Christ. 100 and... Yeah, good... Hey, Asmongold. Hey, Asmongold. Remember when you were talking about, like, the tariffs actually being good for Gen Zers because of, like, the crashes in the stock market and people not caring about that? Let's see how you fucking dumbass little treatlers are gonna be, you know, sobbing at the fucking stores when, everything becomes, 150% more fucking expensive. Yeah, they're gonna be sobbing at GameStops. It's time for the $100. Listen, everyone complaining about $80 Nintendo games. Time for the $200 Nintendo games or some shit. They're not made from China, but you know, you get it. You get the joke.
Gone for years. They become a rich country because of people, again, that were in the White House that allowed this to happen. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year they make on us on trade, and it shouldn't be that way. And,
yeah, it's just not how. It's just, I've talked about this before. A trade deficit means that you have a strong enough economy to be able to import goods. That's just not how that works. Isn't the hardware made in China along with the physical game cards? No, it's made in Vietnam, which has the 46% tariff. It's not made in China.
I have a great relationship with President Xi. I hope it's going to stay that way. I have great respect for China, but they can't do this. So we're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do this, what I'm doing. And I'll tell you what, it's an honor.
Yeah, I wonder why no one else is doing this, because it's fucking stupid. It's just not gonna work. Like, eventually, like, the price tags, they're gonna be reflected amongst American consumers. They're going to re-out, and it's gonna cause a whole fucking shit show mess that you're gonna have to deal with. Like, you thought, yeah, like, I've been saying this, like, you know, this is like the sort of first day of judgment, the you know, April 7th, when I'm talking about this. It's time for when the actual supposed tariffs are supposed to be kicking in. They're going to be done on, what, April 9th, right? So instead of, like, what, Black Tuesday or what it was before, I guess it's going to be Black Wednesday. That's like the meme.
Honored to do it because we have been just destroyed. What they've done to our system. You know, we have $36 trillion of debt for a reason. And the reason is that people allowed it to get that way. So we'll be...
Every other country in the world also has massive amounts of debt. He doesn't understand how national debt works. I've done a rough calculation of China's debt. It's also, like, in the trillions of dollars because, again, in order to pay for stuff, every fucking country borrows fucking money in order to pay for services. That's just how the fucking economy functions. But, you know, we're gonna, like, be like a complete deficit hog and, like, talk about, like, the debt. And you're going to be only doing things that explode the debt. Like, it's stupid.
Talking to China, we'll be talking to a lot of different countries. And I think, you know, if we can make a really fair deal and a good deal for the United States, not a good deal for others. This is America first. It's now America first. And we didn't put America first. We put America last. The people that were in the Oval Office put America last, and we're not going to stand for it. Yeah.
Just like you are by actually giving everything that Israel wants. Israel firstest, but America, the maybe first. But Israel, we love Israel.
Two questions. Do you expect any of these deals to be made before April 9th? And secondly, there have been some mixed messages from your administration. You're talking about negotiations, and yet others in your administration are saying that these tariffs are actually permanent. What is that?
Well, they can both be true. They can be permanent tariffs, and they can also be negotiations, because there are things that we need beyond tariffs. We need open borders. You know, we almost had a deal with China.
We need open borders, huh? Wait, I thought I thought we hated open borders. Well, what's going on? A based anarchist Trump? Well, what's going on here? Open borders. Wait, I thought all the migrants were coming in because of the open borders. And now I thought your borders were what's going on? Would you want open borders now?
We're going to open up China. It was almost done. Some of you remember it during my first term, and it was very disappointing. We ended up making a great deal. $50 billion worth of product was sold. $50 billion. You'd like that in Israel. And I made that deal, but it wasn't the deal that I wanted. It was the deal that I wanted was that plus they would open up China so that our companies could go into China and compete with other countries and China for the for a large number of people. And at the very end, that deal was terminated.
I don't know. Like, how many times do I have to say this? People don't want shitty American products. This is how it is. That's why, like, every single time, fucking like big box stores try to open in like Germany or whatever. They constantly fail all the time. Crazy. Target attempted to open up here in Canada. You want to know what happened? Whoa, they fucking failed. Crazy. I wonder why. Want a Tesla in China when Xiaomi and BYD exist for less money? Exactly. Like, again, make less shitty products, America, and then people will probably buy them. But the only reason why he's doing this is to try to save the car companies. That's it.
And then we went to a piece of the deal. And so there are a lot of things outside of tariffs, but tariffs are very important. But there are a lot of things like opening up countries that were totally closed. China's essentially a closed country. In fact, it is a closed country. And what they do is they charge tariffs so that if you
Wait, I thought one of Elon's biggest plants was in China. I thought like a lot of the biggest manufacturers of like equipment and tech all do it in fucking China because they have a cheap labor pool. Are you sure they're not open? You're just more upset that they don't want to buy your shitty products. Like, make better products. Like what do you want? That's just how it is.
you sell cars or if you sell anything, nobody's going to buy it because the price is out of control. But that's true with a lot of other countries also. So we're going to get fair deals and good deals with every country, and if we don't, we're going to have nothing to do with them. They're not going to be allowed to participate in the United States.
Mr. President,
Anytime. This gentleman is all day long.
Mr. President, thank you, many Palestinian Americans who voted for you and not for Biden because you promised them to end the war in Gaza. The war is still going on and there's no hostage deal. Do you have any updates?
How many Palestinian Americans voted for Trump? A bunch of Arab Americans did. I know that for certain. Wasn't that like vote about 50-50? I will say that the Democrats certainly did squander that community because of Biden. Good job, Biden. Excellent work. Fantastic as always. But they might be having buyer's remorse. And Elon's two-faced ad campaign there. That was in it was just Dearborn, Michigan, right? I believe that's like what is being referenced. But that's like really the like only place really that has like a very high concentration of Muslim Americans. Arab Americans rather. Not Muslim Americans. Arab Americans. Like that's it.
Well, I'd like to see the war stop, and I think the war will stop at some point that won't be in the too distant future. Right now, we have a problem with hostages. We're trying to get the hostages out. We got quite a few.
The
long process. It shouldn't be that long. We have a big problem that we've done. I think I'll ask Pete to maybe talk about it for a second, because a lot of people are asking the Houthis. We've been very tough and very successful militarily.
I'll be honest. Like, you're gonna be on your deathbed. You're still gonna be hearing about those fucking damn hostages. Let's be honest.
We've really damaged them badly. These were people shooting down ships and other things, by the way, flying objects like airplanes. And we've put a major hurt on the Houthis, which nobody's been able to do. We've really hit them hard, and they know it, and they don't know
Wait, everyone check your signal chats. Maybe you're going to get some more plans.
What to do, and it's every night, night after night. And we've gotten many of their leaders and their experts. They're experts on missiles. I mean, they actually make missiles. Nobody thought that, but they make missiles. It's highly sophisticated, and they're very tough, but they've been very badly damaged. Nobody else was able to do that. But Pete, you want to discuss that?
Yes, sir. It's been a bad 3 weeks for the Houthis.
Oh, there's Pete. Oh, we got the leaker in chief himself, Pete Hegseth, or one of the leakers in chief, I suppose. I mean, little baby-faced gremlin JD Vance is also there. But like, I mean, okay, here's the fucking thing. All right, like, this shit's not gonna fucking work. You want to know when the Houthis stopped attacking people? When there was like a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire during Biden's administration of when there was like the initial hostage exchanges that happened between Hamas and the IDF, because there was some initial stuff. And you want to know what happened with the Houthis? Oh, they stopped bombing. They stopped attacking shipping that were going through the Sea of Aden, right? Whoa. Hey, maybe if you actually, followed up in the ceasefire and the Israelis Stop bombing the Palestinians. Then the Houthis will stop. Whoa, crazy. But Trump's not gonna do that.
It's about to get worse. It's been a devastating campaign, whether it's underground facilities, weapons manufacturing, bunkers, troops in the open, air defense assets. We are not going to relent, and it's only to get more unrelenting.
Here's the thing with Sana'a, and Yemen in general. Yemen is also pretty mountainous terrain. You can only go so deep with like bunker busters and everything, so they can just dig deep enough so the bombs can't reach them. That's just how that works. And hide weapons in there. Crazy.
Until the Houthis declare they will stop shooting at our ships, and we've been very clear with the Iranians as well. They should not.
Well, they've been also pretty clear. If you stop aiding and abetting the genocide in Palestine, then they will stop. Just like they did during the Biden administration when there was the first ceasefire and there was exchanges of hostages. You know what the Houthis did? They stopped attacking shipping. Crazy.
Continue to provide support to the Houthis, and that message has been made very clear. So we have a lot more options and a lot more pressure to apply, and we know, because we see the reports, how devastating this campaign has been, and then we will not relent.
We have a great military. There's no military like our military. And despite Biden having given a lot, but nevertheless a pretty small piece, but it was a lot of our military weight in Afghanistan. One of the dumbest situations, I think, and maybe the most embarrassing situation.
You're the one who also caused that fucking situation. The fucking pullout of Afghanistan. Okay, now we have to fucking talk about this, because anything he says about this is a complete lie. The one of the best things that Biden did was deciding to follow through with that. Now, I was kind of like 50-50 on that, saying like, well, there could be some potential consequences for like the U.S. pullout of Afghanistan because of the sort of more like liberal reforms. But like, honestly, the question then becomes, is it better to take the Band-Aid off slowly or just rip it off? Right? Because either way, it was going to be bad when the pullout inevitably fucking happened. So it ended up being a disorganized mess, even more disorganized when Trump basically fully announced to the leaders of the Taliban, saying, "We're gonna leave. We're leaving. I'm just gonna say that we're leaving." Now, granted, the date for when the proposed U.S. pullout of Afghanistan, and he did this on purpose, was during the next time he was assuming he was going to be elected in about 2020. Oh, it was in 2021, around January 20, not January 2021. It was around when was the pullout of Afghanistan again? It happened pretty early on in the Biden administration. February 29th. So that was the proposed pullout, which Biden decided to follow through with, because he could have just said no, forehead, and just kept staying there. So the reason why, and this was the sort of the political ploy that Trump was going with, if he loses, right, and the pullout does happen, he can make a big stink about it, about all the equipment, because he made a complete like shit show botch fest, because the Taliban knew when the US were leaving the whole time, right? Because guess what? In a sudden pullout like the pullout of Afghanistan was, they're not going to be able to put everything onto the cargo planes and get the fuck out. It's just not possible. So a bunch of equipment got left behind. Whoa, crazy. That's what ended up happening. And Biden decided to follow through with it. So guess what? He's able to make political points off of that. If Biden decided not to pull out from Afghanistan, he can also get political points from that, saying like, I negotiated this great pullout of Afghanistan, and Biden decided to keep staying in the forever war. I'm the peace candidate. That's the second option. Now, if he won in 2020, if he won in 2020 and the proposed pullout date does happen, he can just be like, oh, what? I don't want to leave. I don't want to pull out. We're going to stay in Afghanistan. The Taliban, they're very bad people. They're really bad. And guess what? Everyone's going to fucking slop that up anyways, because again, his base are just a bunch of cults. Or he's just going to keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back, keep pushing it back until it just becomes non-feasible anymore. And it would still be a fucking complete shit show. Those are pretty much the three different paths that could have happened. He ended up losing. Biden went through with the pullout, and so he's able to make a whole political point about it. He only did it because it sounded good on paper to actually do a pullout from the Forever War. He wanted to get the political brownie points from it because all he cares about is maintaining power. That's it. And this isn't as you say, Boy Meets Mini, as evil as the Taliban and Houthis are, the entire U.S.'s strategy is shit, and it's because of its alliance with Israel. Well, with the Houthis, sure. The Taliban, it's a little different there. That's like a whole, security apparatus, bullshit thing. Of which, Israel plays a significant part of. But again, do you really think that Trump would have followed through with the pullout of Afghanistan if he won in 2020? I somehow don't believe that. I'm going to be quite honest. I'm not 100% certain on that one.
Situation we've ever been involved in. That short period of time in Afghanistan, what a disgrace that was, but left a lot of our military behind. Left. You see them in their annual parades where they're parading trucks that are armor plated and different things that they kept. But it's many billions of dollars.
You're the reason. You're part of the reason why it happened. Why it ended up being that way. Crazy. And by the way, Biden's approval rating when he did he followed through with the pullout of one of the Forever Wars that nobody fucking liked, never went up after he went through with the pullout. It's actually insane. Everyone wanted that Forever War to end. Biden actually decided to follow through with Trump's stupid, shitty plan. It ended up being a shit show because guess what? Trump's fucking plan was going to always be a fucking shit show. And he got nothing out of it politically. It's crazy.
Behind. But despite that, we have a tremendous military. That was a very small portion because we rebuilt the military.
And he planned to blame it on Biden. Oh yeah, 100%. Because again, Trump doesn't believe in anything. Believes in nothing.
During my first term, and we have great things happening with our military. We also essentially approved a budget, which is in the facility. You'll like to hear this, of $1 trillion, $1 trillion, and nobody's seen anything like it. We have to build our military.
$1 trillion for the military-industrial complex. The Pentagon's only failed every fucking audit for the last 7 times it's been audited. Let's just give them more fucking money. More money for the military. Wait, I thought Trump was the peace candidate, guys. What happened? What happened? Aw, poor Bobby.
Military, and we're very cost conscious, but the military is something that we have to build, and we have to be strong because you got a lot of bad forces out there now. So we're going to be approving a budget, and I'm proud to say, actually, the biggest one we've ever done for the military. We're cutting other things that were under Doge, but under a lot of other. When you look at
8.8, not 8.8, $880 billion of Medicaid cuts. Yep. Hey, time for your Mima and your Peapod to have fucking worse healthcare outcomes now. Wah, wah, wah. It's funny because he blamed Biden's defense spending as partly the reason for inflation. Believes in nothing. He doesn't believe in anything. That's it. Every fucking conservative is like this. They'll complain about Biden spending more in the military, even though it's Republicans who love spending so much fucking money on the military, and then brilliant move, sir. Spending $1 trillion on the military. We love this. And they'll just eat it up like slop because, again, believe in nothing.
A woman getting $2 billion for environmental, and it had nothing to do with environmental, and then $100 in the bank, and they give her $2 billion. Many of those cases, all that stuff is going to be cut out, but we are getting a very, very powerful.
I don't even know what he's talking about there. Who
Military
cares?
things under order
Doesn't
now,
matter.
The likes of which we've never had before. We've never had the kind of aircraft, the kind of missiles, anything that we have ordered. And it's in many ways too bad that we have to do it because hopefully we're not going to have to use it. But the military is very, very powerful, and it's going to remain that way.
Peace candidate, by the way.
I want to ask you about Iran because this is the first time we hear that the U.S. is having a direct contact with the Iranians. Is it possible to give us some more information at what level the U.S. is
High level,
represented?
very high level.
And
We're dealing with the Iranians. We have a very big meeting on Saturday, and
Big
we're dealing with them
meeting.
directly. A lot of people
Biggest
say, maybe
meeting.
you're going through surrogates, so you're not dealing directly, you're dealing through other countries. No, we're dealing with them directly, and maybe a deal's going to be made. That'd be great. It'll be really great for Iran, I can tell you that. But hopefully, we're not going to have to get into that. We're
I already talked about the JCPOA. It was already good for Iran. He tore it up for no reason because, I don't know, maybe John Bolton told them, hey, get rid of that because Obama is stinky and you hate him. And he's like, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I do think that Obama is stinky and I don't like him because I don't like Barack Hussein Obama or some shit. And he tore up the JCPOA. which was working. But, you know, meh.
Meeting very importantly on Saturday
Meh.
at almost the highest level. We'll see how it works out, please.
How do you ensure, Mr. President, that these tariffs don't drive U.S. trading partners into the hands of the Chinese?
I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried.
Was that Sauger? All right, this is some critical racist theory right here. Boy meets Minnie, I need your assistance. That sound like a certain Sauger and Jetty to you.
We'll see how it works out, please.
How do you ensure, Mr. President, that these tariffs don't drive U.S. trading partners into the hands of the Chinese?
I'm not worried about it.
It has to be him. It's him, dude. Because we know he's a part of the press corps now. Oh, apparently him and Tim Pool. Think of that. Like, Tim Pool is also part of the White House press corps now. Insanity.
I'm not worried about it. They want to be in the hands of the U.S. They don't want to be in the hands of the Chinese. The Chinese have turned out to be really not very good at that. People that are with us, they're with us. But we cannot be taken advantage of any longer.
I mean, your global, like, fucking trade war that you're trying to start with tariffs is driving everyone into the hands of the Chinese now. Top G, you know, like, withstanding. Like, you've united basically 150 countries into hating you. Like, okay, bro.
Watch these deals for years. I've been talking about it for years, and I've been talking about it for 35 years, how our country is being ripped off. I mean, 30 years ago it was Japan, then it was something else, then it was another group, then it was China. China's doing the best job of it, frankly. And it's just not going to happen. Not going to happen.
Like, the question is like, what does he mean by, like, ripping off, right? They had a trade deficit because you ordered a bunch of products from them. Yeah. That's how an import economy works. He doesn't understand how basic economics works.
The EU has said that they have offered 0% tariffs on cars and industrial goods. Is that not enough?
Well, the EU, no, it's not. The EU has been very tough over the years. I would say it was formed to really do damage to the United States in trade. That's the reason it was formed. It was formed with all of the countries from Europe, I guess most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And they formed together to create a little bit of a monopoly situation, to create a unified force against the United States for trade. So they have NATO, which is largely the same countries, and they took advantage of us dollar-wise and militarily until I got there. You know, I was able to get $600 billion from NATO, where they paid NATO because most of these nations weren't even paying. We were paying for NATO, so we're paying them to guard them militarily, and they're screwing us on trade. So that's not a good combination.
Again, the reason why North American products are not successful in European markets is because they're just not designed for European markets. Again, there's a reason why American cars don't fucking sell there. No one in Europe wants them because they're too fucking big. Like, honestly, that's the main reason. They're too fucking big and unwieldy for European streets. Like, literally. That is the reason. No one wants fucking pickup trucks in Europe because they don't need them.
So now it's really turned around. It's the opposite. And the European Union's been very bad to us. They don't take our cars, like Japan in that sense. They don't take our agricultural product. They don't take anything practically.
Well, they don't need your agricultural product. Like, they don't need it. What's, like, the biggest agricultural export in the U.S.? It's mostly corn, right? That's what has the most subsidies. That, or I think it's soybeans? What is the biggest... or beef, right? Product of the U.S. Corn. Ford used to sell in India, but they pulled out 3 years ago. Truly sad. When you're in the worst... when you're worse than the likes of Tata. What the fuck is Tata? So, again, one of the biggest crops that the U.S. grows is corn because of all the subsidies that exist for growing corn. Do the Europeans need as much corn? Again, like, he seems to think that because, again, since the U.S. grows so much corn and they try to export a lot of corn, more than likely the Europeans import in a bunch of it, but then they tariff, similar to how top marginal tax rates work. If a certain amount of corn comes in, they say, okay, we're implementing like a 390% tariff on any amount of corn over this amount because we want to make sure that our fucking country doesn't get flooded with this much fucking corn. That's how it works. And I compare this to top marginal tax rates because that's how it works. Any dollar, for example, when you make over a certain threshold, gets taxed very, very highly. So let's say you make $5 million. the top marginal tax rate for those who earn, like, say, $3 million and above is at 90%, which means any dollar that is made over $3 million is taxed at 90%. So, if we do 5 million minus 3 million, that is $2 million that is subjected to a 90% tax rate. The exact same concept applies to these tariffs that he's more than likely talking about. Okay, we have X amount of product from America. We're going to implement this really high tariff, which basically never triggers because we don't order that much from America, of, say, corn. We have, let's say, it's really simple numbers. 1,000 tons of corn or some shit. Whatever. It doesn't matter. We're just playing with easy, simple numbers. Stuff that's relatively easy. Okay, we got 1,000 fucking tons of corn. Okay? Any amount of corn that is ordered above 1,000 tons gets a 390% tariff on it. The reason why that's done is to make sure that the European agricultural market doesn't get flooded with so much fucking corn. Because they're just going to have all that fucking corn and be like, what the fuck are we going to do with all this shit? Let it to rot? That's a waste of money. Why the fuck did we do that? So they do that to make sure they don't have too much. That's the point. Random example, but more than likely that's what he's talking about.
And yet they send millions of cars in a year, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, BMWs. They're sending millions and millions of cars into the U.S., but we don't have a car that's been sold to the European Union or other places, but let's go.
What American cars sell in the Europe? Because I haven't been to Europe in a while. I've been to Romania. I've seen Fords and shit in there, right? What American cars are sold in Europe? I know there's Tesla plants that exist in Europe, but those are taking a fucking complete nosedive. High performance Mustangs and Corvettes sell in Europe. I figured as much. That's what I'm seeing. Popular in America. Are American-made cars sold in Germany? Not many. German cars may be irregular sights on U.S. roads, but leading American brands are less common in Germany. The reasons range from customer preferences and German regulations to the sheer size of cars. Whoa! Crazy! So the thing that I talked about earlier, because again, you want to know what, like, yeah, just like you're saying, Boy Meets Mini, there are so many subsidies for the car companies to make SUVs and trucks, because again, those are the things that are way more fucking profitable for these fucking car companies to make. And these fucking massive hunks of metal don't really sell well in the smaller European streets. So they try to sell them in Europe. All the customers, the consumers there are just like, we don't actually really like these things, so we're just not going to buy them. And as a result, they perform badly there. Monetarily wise. Whoa, crazy. Honestly, I just say, like, if you really want, like, more fucking shit to be sold in Europe, stop making so many SUVs and trucks, and maybe you'll have better fucking sales margins in Europe. There's a reason why, like, Not Just Bikes talks about this all the time, about why SUVs and trucks are fucking dog shit. It's because they build them in order to skirt a lot of regulations, in order to make more profits. Crazy.
For the European Union, and it's not going to be that way. It's got to be fair and reciprocal. It's got to be fair. It's not fair. We have a deficit with the European Union of $350 billion.
That's true.
It's going to disappear fast. And one of the reasons and one of the ways that can disappear easily and quickly is they're going to have to buy our energy from us because they need it. They're going to have to buy it from us. They can buy it. We can knock off $350 billion in 1 week. They have to buy and commit to buy a like amount of energy. And we have that. You know, we have more energy than any country in the world. I don't know if you know that. He knows everything. But the one thing you may not know, we have more energy than any country in the world. We have more of every kind of energy, every form of energy, from oil and gas to coal. And people talk about, I call it beautiful clean coal. As you know, Germany is opening up a coal plant a week. They tried windmills and it didn't work. They tried all the other solutions and they were ready to go out of business. Now they're doing a coal plant a week. China is now up to 2 coal plants. They're opening 2 major coal plants every single week in China, all over China. And then we're not allowed.
Is that even true? Like, what the fuck does that even mean? China opening coal plants. Because they do have a bunch of coal fire stations, but from what I understand, they're using that as like a sort of transition. What does this mean? Construction started on a 94.5 gigawatts of new fire coal power plants in 2024, right? China is expanding its energy pretty quickly, but just as much in renewables and nuclear. That's what I also understood as well. Like, what does this even mean? China is building more coal plants, but might burn less coal. Newly operating coal plants in China. Okay. China's coal plants are running less often. Power plants usually aren't running all the time. True. That is true. To conserve fuel. They're turned on and off or ramped up and down when they're needed. True. That is how that works. This is an interesting graph I just found here. Because from what I understood, the reason why they have a bunch of coal power plants is to act as a transition, right? Because again, China has like recently developed. So this is the number of newly operating coal power plants in China. Coal capacity is measured in gigawatts. Okay. So it seems to be trending downwards. They're running less often. Coal-fired power in China running fewer hours to help meet reliability requirements. Meanwhile, they're investing more and more from what I understand, into solar and nuclear. So it's mostly meant to be transitionary. A temporary solution to meet power demand. So right now, they're hitting the alleged peak of coal-fired power plants with plans to reduce that amount. Now, from what I understand, they still have to supply power to 1.4 billion people. Yeah, people seem to forget. A lot of people do live in China. A lot of people live there. Many of the coal plants are losing money. Interesting. High coal prices mean that most coal plants in China are operating at a loss. In 2018, almost 50% had a net financial loss. Things have only gotten worse. Data from the China Electricity Council suggests that more than half of its large coal firms made a loss in the first half of 2022. Okay. Again, like I said before, the reason why the US is trying to also transition away from coal in general is because, like, it's just not not as profitable as it used to be anymore. And also, like, technology has just improved. Solar has significantly gotten way cheaper because of technological improvements, broadly speaking. That's why people want to invest more and more in solar energy or wind turbines, because the tech has just gotten better. And nuclear. The tech is better. You can get more out of your fuel, and it's just way more profitable to do as such. But we're talking about fucking coal again. Like, it's the fucking, 1800s or some shit? Stupid.
Allowed to use coal. Well, we have clean, beautiful coal more than anybody else. We have oil and gas more than anybody else. We have the most energy of any country in the world, including Saudi Arabia, including everybody, by a lot. And I took it to number one. We were number 3, and I took it to number 1 during my administration. And the reason that we were hurt so badly, and the reason that we went into
destroying the planet.
During Biden,
we're destroying the planet for energy,
because they played around with this incredible thing that we had built, this administration had built, and the energy costs went through the roof. And when that went up, everything else followed. Now, if you look at what's happening, you got
No, a lot of the energy costs went up as a result of inflationary pressures from COVID. And because of supply chain issues. It's just not true. I believe that the US is still producing more energy than anyone on the planet right now. They have so much that they generally export it to other countries for a profit. That's how that works. That's what happens when you make too much. You export it out. Crazy, I know.
And I see this today. I said, we're going to try and get groceries down, right? An old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term. Eggs. So when I got in, the press went absolutely crazy the first week. They said, eggs have quadrupled in price. I said, I just got here. Tell me about it. And Brooke Rollins and our team did a great job, and eggs are down now 79%, and they're all over the place. And this was a problem that somebody else would have taken a long time to cure. We have energy is down.
Have egg prices actually gone down? I know that a big have they actually dealt with because the reason why the egg prices started to go up was because it was an epidemic of avian flu. A bunch of avian flu went into like the you know, the big sort of like factory farms, and they started killing a lot of chickens. And as a result, egg prices started to, well, go up. Because again, if you've seen the conditions of factory farms that chickens are in, Jesus fucking Christ, it's really bad. It is really, really bad, the conditions in those farms. Why are egg prices going down? I'm curious. Why are egg prices... I keep seeing going up, but going down now. Egg prices are falling, but there's a catch. Only now starting to see shelf prices slowly decline. The Department of Agriculture report says the demand from egg products manufacturers is mostly light, as many have been able to take advantage of a sluggish carton market to build supplies on the spot market, enough to increase production levels to a 3-month high. The egg shortage may have finally been cracked. Is there still... Wait, I'm curious. Is there still a bunch of avian flu that's going around right now? The supply situation at grocery outlets has greatly improved in recent weeks, and consumers are once again seeing fully stocked shelves and enjoying a range of choices without purchase restrictions. Okay. Here we go. Here's the answer. The egg market seems to be on the upswing. While the avian flu has killed 30 million egg-laying birds this year, the outbreaks have been contained. That's why. They finally took care of the avian flu outbreaks, so egg prices are starting to go down. Let's see. It says the price drop largely due to a sharp decrease in cases of avian influenza, with just 2.1 million birds affected in March of this year compared to 23 million in January and nearly 13 million in February. So, yeah, there was an epidemic that went through, killed a bunch of birds, and now it's been contained. That's why. America's poultry farmers have to put in the work to tighten biosecurity, and they'll continue to strive to protect their flocks. Demand has also fallen as consumers got tired of paying higher prices, giving suppliers a chance to build back up supply, which caused lower prices. Well, there's your answer. Because the prices were so high, people stopped buying, so the supply had an opportunity to go up, so the prices started going down. Also, the flu epidemic stopped. It got contained for the most part, and less birds started dying. So, is that necessarily because of like what the Trump administration has done? Maybe, maybe not. But for the most part, it seems like the wave of the avian influenza that was affecting the egg-laying birds subsided. And that's why the prices are starting to go back down. Relatively simple stuff.
We have interest rates are down. We have groceries, meaning food is down. We have everything is down at levels that nobody ever thought possible.
Because of the tariffs, the interest rates are actually going up. But, you know.
Energy looks like it's going to be in the $2.50 a gallon range and maybe below that for a car. So for gasoline. So we are...
Man, for like the first time in a while, I think like gas prices in Canada have gone... Because they've been like going up significantly. Carbon tax and stuff like that. Yeah, 250 gallons for gas is unrealistic. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be that. I think it's gone because we go by the liter, so it's about 120 per liter. It hasn't been that low for like a while.
We're really doing amazing. I mean, we're cutting prices because prices got so high people couldn't live. I mean, the prices for groceries,
Bro,
the prices for standard groceries, standard things were
mentality.
going through the roof. They couldn't live, and now those prices are coming down.
true.
So call them groceries, but that's down, energy's down, and interest rates are down. Everything's down, and the interest rates. The beauty there is when we refinance debt, you know, debt's become.
Guys, I think the interest rates might be going back up because of the tariffs.
such a big factor in this country. We're going to start paying debt off with tariffs and other things, but it's such a big factor because the interest rate's so high. Well, now that's coming way down.
Yeah, the tariffs are definitely going to be what pays off the fucking $36 trillion of debt. Sure, man. Again, I've said this before. The reason why he wants, and I think he even mentions it in this interview, he wants to replace income tax with tariffs. And if you've done like any like tertiary fucking research for like even 3 seconds, you can just be like, man, this one number is way smaller than this other number. Let's see, what is the income tax? How much money does America make from income tax? How much? In fiscal year 2023, the U.S. federal government collected approximately $2.18 trillion in income taxes, representing about 49% of the total federal revenue. That's a lot of money. How much money does the U.S. make from tariffs? Tax Foundation, economic impact of the Trump tariff trade war. 13.2 billion in tariff revenues. Wah, 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 wah. And even from Scott Bessent, he says could collect 300 billion to 600 billion a year in tariffs. You're off by a factor of about 3.5 to 7. Also, yeah, I don't believe this even for a second. There's no fucking way. But yeah, 300 billion to 600 billion, 2.18 trillion. Wah, 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 wah.
Down. So our budget's going to look a lot better because interest costs are way down. And I guess I've done that.
Many Israelis are watching you now on live show. What is your specific way to get the hostages out from the horrific captivity?
We are trying very hard to get the hostages out. We're looking
the
at another
mythical
ceasefire to see what
hostages.
happens, but we want to get the hostages out. The Israeli people want the hostages out more than anything. They want the hostages out. This man is working very hard with us to do.
Yeah, and Netanyahu is constantly bombing the shit out of them, but it doesn't matter. Who
that. I
cares?
don't know. I hope he's being appreciated because he's been a great leader. He's working very, very hard on the hostages and many other things. And there are plenty of things you have to work on.
There has been, like I've mentioned this before, how many fucking ceasefire deals were stopped by Netanyahu himself? At least like 3 that I know of. Like Biden was just like, here's our deal. Everyone else agreed to it. Do you agree with it? And he's still like, no, I don't. And it's just like, well, Biden being the fucking coward that he is, he's just like, nah, well, looks like there's nothing I can do, folks. And it's just like, okay, good work, Biden. Fantastic. And this guy's just like, oh, I got the ceasefire deal. That Netanyahu broke like 2 days after and started bombing Gaza again. Hilarious.
It's a tough place in the world.
I have a good partner.
Yeah, you do have a good partner, and so do we. We're working very hard on the hostages.
If you're going to negotiate a new deal with Iran, can you elaborate how it's going to be more effective than the JCPOA?
Well, I can't really say that, but I think it'll be different and maybe a lot stronger. But they were so happy when we made that first deal because we did get a lot out. You know, I had people right in this office, this beautiful Oval Office. They came in 10 people hostages, you know that. And I said to them, so how was it? And the stories they told me, I mean, as an example.
What does he mean? Wait, 10 hostages? The question was about the JCPOA, and he's not going to talk about the JCPOA? We're going to have a great deal, but, you know, hostages.
I said to them, was there any sign of love? You were there. 10 people. It's only 10, but it's pretty representative. Did the Hamas show any signs of, like, help or liking you? Did they wink at you? Did they give you a piece of bread extra? Did they give you a meal on the side, like, you know, you think of doing? Like what happened in Germany, what happened elsewhere. People would try and help people that were in...
What does it mean by but what happened in Germany? Like, what? The Nazis showing sympathy to, like, POWs or something? What does that mean? What is he talking about? I think we're getting to the old man rambles portion of this press conference.
Unbelievable distress. They said no. I said all of them. I said, did they ever wink at you like you'll be okay? You're gonna be okay? No, they didn't do that. They'd slap us. The hatred is unbelievable, and the lives. You know, they lived in a pipe. Not really.
Guys, I wonder why Hamas might not be very big fans of Israel. I can think of several reasons. Starts with an N, ends with an Akba. And that this is basically Nakba 2 Electric Boogaloo. guys, if the first Nakba was so good, why don't we try it again? Sure, man. That's going to really work out well for the Israelis.
A tunnel. It was a pipe, and they always thought they were suffocating. They were going to suffocate, and then they'd open up the pipe, and it was like 3.5 feet high. This isn't, we hear tunnels bad, but pipes are worse. And the stories I heard were incredible. But I just said, was there any sign of potential love or affection? And there were none whatsoever. It was amazing to me. There was nothing like, here, take this as a little extra meal or something. They lived like hell. I don't know. They were amazing to me because they seemed to be pretty normal. They weren't scarred, but I guarantee underneath they have to be scarred. And one was there for 356 days. Another was there for about 180 days. A long time. These are people that have been really horribly treated. I've never seen anything like it. Actually, that was great.
Like, he's just kind of waffling. Like, what are you even supposed to say to this? What is he talking about? How does he know? We know that Benjamin Netanyahu bombed a bunch of the hostages, and that made Israelis pretty pissed, and that's why they wanted him initially out to begin with. But, tomato, tomato. Who cares?
Very surprised to hear the answer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Are there 2 or 3 countries that on your list that you feel are farther along in getting their tariffs lowered?
I think there are many that want to get rid of tariffs right now. European Union, I mean, as badly as they've treated us, they brought their car tariffs essentially off. I guess they brought it down to 2.5, and I hear maybe to nothing. But it's not only tariffs; it's non-monetary tariffs. It's tariffs where they put things on that make it impossible for you to sell a car. It's not a money thing. They make it so difficult. The standards and the tests. They drop a bowling ball on the top of your car from 20 feet up in the air, and if there's a little dent, they say, "No, I'm sorry, your car doesn't qualify."
What does that even fucking mean? Like, what? Did some random YouTubers drop a bowling ball on a fucking Cybertruck or some shit? And the European regulators were watching that fucking video or something? Again, we know the reasoning why American cars don't fucking sell well in European markets. Because, A, they're too big. B, the only fucking things that American fucking car manufacturers typically make are SUVs and trucks, which are way too fucking big for the European streets, and no one fucking likes how big they are. And C, they just have preferences for their own cars. They just don't like your cars. Because they're made like shit. That's it. Crazy.
When the same car from Germany would dent likewise, unless you can have an army tank, it's going to dent. So they come up with rules and regulations that are just designed for one reason, that you can't sell your product in those countries.
Yeah, because again, a lot of American companies tend to skirt regulations all the time. And the American car companies are quite heavily fucking deregulated in order to try to be competitive. Making a shittier and shittier product to try to be competitive, and no one fucking likes it. Because again, all the fucking car companies care about is turning as big of a fucking profit as possible. Crazy.
And we're not going to let that happen. Those are called non-monetary barriers. They make barriers that are so tough that it's impossible to qualify. So tariffs are a big part of it, but
yeah, BYD, NIO, very cheap electric cars, making just way better fucking vehicles and whatnot. Also, by the way, with all the stupid shit Trump is doing, do you really think that Europeans are going to be more favorable to buying American cars? Fuck no. What are you talking about? Also, if they try to open up plants within Europe, guess what? You have to then listen to European, state by state labor regulations, and guess what? Not fucking profitable for American companies to do that. Any fucking American company that has moved over to Europe generally goes fucking bankrupt. A couple years after trying the venture. Because again, they want to skirt as much regulation as possible. They want to pay their workers like fucking shit. Because otherwise, they don't make much of a profit. Because again, it's not about selling good product. They don't give a shit about that. They don't give a fuck about paying their workers well. It's all about just churning out fucking slop for American companies. That's it. Slop for the fucking slop gods.
But there's another big part of it, and that's barriers. They also do something else. They manipulate their currency, and they drive it down. They want to have low currencies. It sounds better to have a high currency, a strong dollar or whatever, but they bring their currency down, and when it competes with our currency, it's very hard to sell a tractor. It's very hard to sell product, because their currency is low, and ours is much higher, relatively. And so it makes it very hard. I speak to a lot of companies that do business, tractor companies.
What does that mean? Hold on. Euro to USD. What's the conversion rate on this? What does that even mean? So 1 euro is equal to $1.10 of the US. So for every euro, you get $1 and $1.10 of a US dollar. Okay. So they're about on parity with one another? Like, what does this even mean? The United States dollar is the current global reserve currency. I've explained this before. It's very useful for a lot of, like, and this is why, like, America, generally speaking, has, like, an import economy. They import a lot of products because it's very useful because they want to buy a lot of products from different nations that are able to manufacture it more cheaply, partially because American companies want to exploit their labor resources. That's a different fucking story, obviously. But they want to import cheap goods from other countries so they can sell it cheaply to American consumers. And countries are generally okay with this relationship because they get to pay with their money, and they get American dollars out of that. And the power of having a recurrent and the most powerful dollar in reserve means, hey, we can use this as potential economic leverage because the Americans like to do a lot of business with us because we give them a lot of, not give them, we sell them a lot of products and they buy a lot of stuff from us. That's how it works. So there's power in that because the Americans at any time can just be like, if we don't like you, we can just not buy as much of whatever product you're selling. We can try to find some other supplier or some shit. Now, that's not exactly how that works 100% of the time, obviously. Certain countries are better at certain particular export markets in comparison to others. Let's say like coffee. A lot of coffee is made in Southeast Asia, for example, or in like South America. But I think it's mostly Indonesia that has the highest percentage of, say, coffee that is put out on the global market. They grow the most. Generally speaking, like, Americans buy quite a lot of coffee from there because it's cheaper to do as such. Obviously, they could buy from other sources, but they won't have as much supply for it. That's generally how it works within a sort of global fucking economy. At least that's how it's supposed to work. But again, for whatever reason, that's like a bad thing in Trump's mind. That like because of how powerful and strong the American economy is, it's bad that they buy a bunch of products and ingratiate a bunch of companies or a bunch of countries to the U.S. because they're not buying our stuff because they don't want to. Like, why would they need to buy your stuff? Your economy is so strong in terms of services and other technological sort of exports and other services that, hey, you don't really have to have like a sort of rudimentary base manufacturing economy in order to be able to have a strong, powerful economy. This is not how that works. We live in a globalized system. And the Americans are trying to transition from that slowly, but they're not able. They're not really doing it. That's why manufacturing, generally speaking, got hollowed out significantly during the 60s and the 70s. Whoa, crazy. A lot of it is also because of further deregulation and corporate consolidation, of course. That's also played a significant factor for as to why American manufacturing got hollowed out. And we have to always harken back to that shit, which is, it's so stupid. Because, yeah, in order to have a strong economy, you have to have a strong manufacturing base. That's totally how that works. Even though, like, the Americans are not in a position to do it. It's just stupid. It's just dumb.
Companies, and they say it's so hard to sell because what they've done is they've lowered the yen or they've lowered the yuan or they've lowered their currency, so then it's very hard to compete. We don't want that either. So we have a lot of things that we're talking about, but we're going to fix it properly, and it's going to be fair to everybody. And in the end, I think we're going to have a world that does a lot better, But they have to respect the United States, and nobody can do it.
I find it funny that Americans think the world is encroaching on their economy when it's the U.S. corporations doing that to the rest of the world. Yup. Again, there's a reason why outsourcing fucking happened. And by the way,
nobody but me would.
More manufacturing jobs were outsourced during the first Trump turn in comparison to the Biden brought back a significant amount of manufacturing through the CHIPS Act. And guess what's being thrown out of the window? Oh, the CHIPS Act. Like, corporations are the basis of the global economy, like you're saying. And it's mostly U.S. corporations. How many, like, and how many fucking countries does Amazon deliver to and operate in? And same with all the different tech companies. How many fucking computers run on Windows? How many different countries have Macs and Apple products? Tons of them. Because the Americans are very good at making that kind of equipment. And a lot of that is manufactured in overseas because it's less expensive to do so. Crazy. Because corporations, since all they care about is making a profit, they want to exploit as much as possible in order to get as big of a profit as possible. The basis of the problem is corporations. Not because, like, manufacturing got randomly hollowed out by, like, Joe Biden or whatever the fuck. You're part of the reason why manufacturing got hollowed out. You did that. But okay.
We do this. You know, it would be nice to serve, a nice easy term, but we have an opportunity to change the fabric of our country. We have an opportunity to reset the table on trade. We lose billions of dollars. We lose close to $2 trillion a year on trade. We lose $1 trillion a year to China. $1 trillion. We lose hundreds of billions of dollars a year on trade to China. We lose hundreds of
Is that the trade deficit that the US has with China? You have to Google so much and just like debunk so much shit that it's almost like pointless. What is the trade deficit between US and China? What is it? Literally the fucking first thing that pops up. No, the U.S. does not have a $1 trillion trade deficit with China. What Trump got wrong. And that's when he was talking on Air Force One. The gap with China rose slightly last year to $263 billion. Government statistics show. So he's just lying. It's just a lie.
Billions of dollars overall, probably close to $2 trillion. Why would we do that? Number one, why would we do that? And then you have to say, is it just...
Now it's $2 trillion. From $1 trillion to $2 trillion. Crazy.
Then you hear about all of the people that say, well, deficits. If we have a deficit with the country, if the country has a big surplus with us, like China has a massive surplus that they take and they spend on their military. Well, we don't want that. I don't want them to take 500, 600 billion.
That's not how that works. He probably got that fake number from Project 2025. More than likely. If I were to make a guess, some Heritage Foundation freak came up with that number, and that's what he's operating under. If I were to take a guess. But yeah, that's just not how that works.
$1 a year and spend it on their military. I don't want them spending money on their military, and I shouldn't have to spend money. We shouldn't have to spend it either, because hopefully, and I said this to President Xi.
I mean, like I said, you just said you're going to increase the military budget to $1 trillion. Currently, the U.S. still spends way more money than the top 10 countries combined. The second highest spender on military is China. I think at about like $400 billion a year. How much does China spend on military? As of 2025, the official military budget was announced to be 1.78 trillion yuan, or $246 billion. The second largest in the world behind the U.S. That's a quarter. About a quarter of what the U.S. currently spends. But okay. They're spending all that money, that $2 trillion on military. That's what they're doing. Yeah, sure, man.
Hopefully it's money that we're never going to use. In other words, because we're not going to use those incredible weapons that we have and that they have. We don't want that. So it's going to be very interesting. It's the only chance our country will have to
Also,
reset
imagine saying
because no other president would be willing to do what I'm doing or to even go through it. Now, I don't mind going through it because I see a beautiful picture at the end. But we are making tremendous progress with a lot of countries.
Yeah.
And countries that really took advantage of us are now saying, please negotiate. Sure. You know why? Because they're getting beaten badly because of what's happening. They're getting beaten badly. They're being devalued as countries. But it's the only chance.
Every other country has started negotiating with everyone else except the U.S. Like, we're looking to talk with the Europeans and the Chinese because of how stupid these fucking tariffs are. And, like, every Central American country. And in South America. Like, you have unified the world against you, buddy. Like, what are you talking about?
chance we're going to have to reset the table on trade. And when we do, we're going to come out unbelievably well. We're going to have a strong country economically again, and we're going to have those factories that are empty all over the United States. We've lost 90,000 plants and factories. Think of this, 90,000. You wouldn't think it's possible. 90,000 plants.
Yeah, a bunch of which were going to be brought back because of the CHIPS Act, and that you want to rip apart now. Because, again, we have to keep doing rudimentary fucking manufacturing for what... Bro thinks this is like fucking Factorio, sticking the iron plates into the fucking goddamn furnaces to churn out steel. That's not how that works, man. It's just... Like, what are you even supposed to say here? It's just stupid.
And factories since NAFTA, which was, by the way, the worst trade deal ever developed, ever had by any country anywhere, NAFTA. And I terminated NAFTA. Everybody said it would be impossible. And I terminated it through Congress. We terminated it. You had to get it through Congress.
That's true.
It was a trap. It was a horrible thing.
That's true. But the USMCA was basically NAFTA, but I have full veto power over it. And he vetoed it for whatever reason because he didn't like it. But it's the trade deal you negotiated. I guess it's old man rambling time.
And we went to the USMCA, which was much better. The problem is they cheat. They cheat like crazy. Canada cheats. Mexico cheats. Just one of those.
Like, in what way? You negotiated the deal. How are they able to cheat? Like, in what way? Because they're able to... Because you have to, like, send the intermediary products for them to get developed and then they get sent back. It's just stupid. Like, what are you supposed to say? It's just dumb. Like, he does not know how trade works. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't get it.
Things. But we are resetting a table and we're going to have great trade.
Like, what's the cheating?
Country. Our country is going to be at a level that has maybe never been, or maybe, you know, our country was the strongest, believe it or not, from 1870 to 1913. You know why? It was all tariff-based. We had no income tax. Then in 1913...
So, remember when I mentioned earlier he wants to replace income tax with tariffs? That's why. Hey, Trump, what happened after 1913 where supposedly the tariffs and the manifestation of income tax happened? What happened in 1929 after the Gilded Age? Oh, the Great Depression happened. And the world economy just shat the fucking bed. Also, yeah, like you said, Boy Meets Mini, totally different time in economic dynamics. Completely fucking different. The mechanics are totally different. We literally just went over the fucking numbers earlier. Are you really going to get, somehow, through tariffs, $2.2 trillion in federal income? Are you going to get that? Because that's $2.2 trillion. It's about 49% of federal income per year. Are you really going to get that through fucking tariffs? Yeah, probably not.
Some genius came up with the idea of let's charge the people of our country, not foreign countries that are ripping off our country. And the country was never, relatively, was never that kind of wealth. We had so much wealth we didn't know what to do with our money. We had meetings, we had committees, and these committees worked tirelessly to study one subject.
I still don't really understand the claim. Was the U.S. the richest as it could have been back in 1870? Was it? Is this even true? Was the U.S. because from what I understand, right now, the U.S. is currently the richest country in the world because of a lot of the soft power that was built up through the Marshall Plan, helping rebuild Europe, ingratiating Europe to the United States. In 1870, it was probably the UK. Yeah, because the British Empire was still going strong at that point. The richest in history in 1870. Was it? While the U.S. economy was experiencing rapid growth and becoming a rising power during the Gilded Age, roughly 1865 to 1902, it's not accurate to say that the U.S. was at its richest in 1870, or during that period in terms of overall wealth or personal income compared to later periods. A fucking Reddit thread? Today, Trump stated, this was about 2 months ago, You know, the United States in 1870 to 1913 owed tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking. I don't know what relatively speaking is supposed to mean, but no, this is an insane statement. Most people didn't have electricity or indoor plumbing, to say nothing of other modern conveniences. Very true, Reddit commenter. Was the America better off under a system of tariffs rather than income tax? No. Pointing to a bunch of other threats. Crazy. And there were still crashes that happened during those times. What does Morningstar have to say about this? That's far from the only praise that Trump and his allies have heaped on tariffs. The Gilded Age and periods just before or after it. In his inaugural address on January 20th, Trump said William McKinley, who was president from 1897 to 1901, and before that as influential congressman, made our country very rich through tariffs. Howard Lutnick said at a Trump campaign rally, was great about 125 years ago when the country had no income tax and all we had was tariffs. The history lessons from Trump and his allies took to bolster support for broad use of tariffs while facing skepticism from economists and some on Wall Street. What's like the fucking claim here? For lower middle class Americans, life was getting better during 1870 to 1913, but it was still more difficult than today, with no unemployment insurance, no minimum wages, no restrictions on working hours, and very few protections for workers. Yep, because this was before the New Deal, where the New Deal provided all of those things. There were also financial crises and panics, with the Federal Reserve established in 1913 to prevent or diminish them. That was the point of it, yep. Howard Nutlick. That's pretty funny. The fault line, if you want to put it that way, between those early years in modernity was the Great Depression. What we learned in the Great Depression was you can't run a modern economy like we used to run in the 19th century. The UC Davis economist told MarketWatch it wasn't the tariffs. Trump is giving too much credit to tariffs as he talks about America's strengths in the late 1800s, according to historians. And everyone is saying, all of these economists and historians are saying, it's not the fucking tariffs. What led to the rise in power of the United States was the fucking Marshall Plan and the fact that, in comparison to Europe, after World War II, the U.S. was relatively untouched. In comparison to Europe, the Soviet Union, and, well, the rest of the world. The Japanese, a lot of Southeast Asia, even Australia got hit. And a lot of Africa. But Africa was already got fucked over by colonialism. The scramble for Africa. Which pretty much all that shit more or less ended with World War II. And of course, not exactly. There's still a lot of colonial exploitation of African countries through a lot of the systems that the French have established to this day. Same with the British. Not so much with the British. It's mostly the French. But to say that it's the tariffs, it's just nonsense. That's not the reason why America allegedly became rich during the Gilded Age. No. It's just silly.
We have so much money. What are we going to do with it? Who are we going to give it to? And I hope we're going to be in that position again.
Mr. President, do you plan to reduce the tariffs that your government put on Israeli goods, 70%?
Where?
On Israeli goods, the 70%. Do you plan
Well,
to
we're
reduce
talking about a whole new trade. Maybe not. Maybe not. Don't forget, we help Israel a lot. You know, we give Israel $4 billion a year. That's a lot. Congratulations, by the way. But we give Israel billions of dollars a year. Billions. It's one of the highest of. And we give a lot of countries money. You wouldn't believe if I said we give Afghanistan a lot of money, didn't it? Because that was a Biden deal, another Biden deal. Not only did he embarrass us with that, but they give them billions of dollars. Afghanistan, right? So.
Yeah, they give them billions of dollars because that's just how soft power works. If you, do foreign aid, generally countries are going to be thankful and are willing to make more deals with you because guess what? You're giving them aid to help deal with their problems because they've been exploited. That's how soft power works.
But no, we take good care of our friends, and we don't take care of our enemies. We're not taking care of our enemies anymore, but we do take care of our friends.
For the times of Israel, Yahya is fighting again in the Gaza Strip by myself when he called up in a month. Do you think that's the way to pressure Hamas to get to a deal? Do you think blocking humanitarian aid is also an effective pressure?
Well, you know how I feel about the Gaza Strip. I think it's an incredible piece of important real estate, and I think it's something that we would be involved in, but...
It's very telling what he fucking thinks of the whole fucking war. If he thinks that, because he has this obsession, he wants to do his like Trump Gaza fucking thing, right? That stupid dumb fuck AI video with like trans fucking belly dancers or some shit because he's a stupid racist. Important real estate, yeah. He really wants to make the AI video real. Yeah, he wants to turn again. He wants to ethnically displace all the Palestinians and turn them into nice little fucking slaves in order to have Gaza be a playground for billionaires. That's the point. Like, period. That's what he wants to do. But okay, guys. Sure. This guy, by the way, he's supposed to be the peace president. I want you to, like, literally think for 3 seconds. Do you know what is necessary in order to fucking have that become a reality? Okay. Trump supporters, because I know they're going to come in here and be stupid and annoying. It doesn't matter, okay? Think about it for literally 3 fucking seconds. Do you know what is going to have to be necessary in order to be able to do that? Because the Gaza Strip currently is still, like, it's fucking rubble. Like, it's still being bombed to this fucking goddamn, to this goddamn day. What needs to happen is American boots on the ground they're going to have to go in to occupy the fucking Gaza Strip. Like, they just have to go in. The entire strip itself is going to have to be bulldozed. All of the fucking rubble has to be fucking removed. And for what? So you can start building fucking luxury hotels on there and resorts and all these other fucking buildings on there. All under military occupation, moving out all the fucking Palestinians. Because guess what? Do you really think that the Palestinians are going to take that sitting down? Probably not. They're going to make a rather big fuss about it. As mentioned earlier in this fucking press conference, literally Trump was just like, yeah, we're gonna, or like not even Trump, it was Benjamin Netanyahu who said like, well, you know, we're gonna give them, they're gonna be asked voluntarily if they want to leave. I don't think they want to leave voluntarily, guys. I'll be honest. I don't think they want to leave because that's their fucking home. Because guess what? A little thing called the Nakba, where a bunch of Zionist militias forced the ethnic displacement of Palestinians from their homes and forced them into the Gaza Strip. That's why a lot of them fucking live there now. Whoa. Crazy.
Having a peace force like the United States there, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip would be a good thing. Because right now, all it is for years and years, all I hear about is killing.
Yeah, I mean, controlling and owning the Gaza Strip. He just said it. He just admits it. He wants to occupy it. Just colonial occupation. Wait, I thought, again, conservatives. I thought this guy was your peace candidate. What happened to peace? The dude just wants to occupy another country and occupy the fucking, not a country, but the Gaza Strip. Probably dragging the U.S. into another fucking forever war. And I wonder why that's the case.
And Hamas and problems. And if you take the people, the Palestinians, and move them around to different countries, and you have plenty of countries that will do that, and you really have a freedom zone.
They don't want to take them in. They've stated this before. They do not want to take in those Palestinians.
You go to the freedom zone, a free zone, a zone where people aren't going to be killed every day. That's a hell of a place. It's you know what I call it, a great location that nobody wants to live in because they really don't. And when they have good living, real living, where Hamas and all of the problems they have, the level of death on the Gaza Strip is just incredible. And I've said,
who caused that, Trump? Who did that? You're only going to exacerbate the problem. Not the fucking Jitler that's fucking right next to you, but okay. Level of death is incredible. I wonder who's causing that. Who's enabling him to do that? You? By giving him more and more arms?
I don't understand why Israel ever gave it up. Israel owned it. It wasn't this man, so I can say it. He wouldn't have given it up. I know him very well. There's no way. They took oceanfront.
They gave up the Gaza Strip because after occupying... So, okay. We're doing a little bit of history here. Because Trump obviously doesn't know the history. 1967, the Six-Day War happens. Israel fucking wins that. Beats the shit out of the Egyptians, the Jordanians, and I think Lebanon. This was the Six-Day War. I believe, yeah. This would have been the 6-Day War. And they occupied the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula. The UN stepped in saying, okay, get out of the Sinai, get out of the Golan Heights. We're going to return those back to Egypt, and it was the Syrians. We're going to return those to the Syrians and the Egyptians respectively. And then they mandated territory that was to be given to the Palestinians, the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Of course, thanks to a lot of illegal encroachments by the Israelis, they've been losing more and more land and territory. That's why, generally speaking, there's been a lot of talk about a movement for a land to return for a lot of Palestinians, because guess what? A lot of the occupations that Israel is doing is illegal in the eyes of international law. Those Palestinians are allowed to go back in there, simply put. But, international law, the UN, who gives a fuck about those guys? We're the United States. Fuck them.
Property, and they gave it to people for peace. How did that work out? Not good.
Is the immigration, sorry, Mr. President, is the immigration plan?
Yeah, because the fucking Israelis kept bombing the shit out of them. Crazy.
Stealing the agenda?
Which immigration?
From Gaza. From Gaza.
All it is a concept that I had that I think is good, and now people are copying it. Maybe you want to tell people are talking about the Trump plan. What do we do that? Would you like to answer that question?
I think what the president talked about is, first of all, to give people a choice. Gaza were closed in. And every other place, including in arenas of battle, I mean, whether it's Ukraine or Syria or any other place, people could leave. Gaza was the only place where they locked them in. We didn't lock them in. They're locked in. And what is wrong with giving people a choice? Now, we've been talking...
Again, we're listening to a fucking historical revisionist here. The reason that fucking the Palestinians a lot of them are in fucking Gaza is because of the Nakba. 800,000 Palestinians were forced to migrate into Gaza. That's what fucking happened. And that's why a lot of Palestinians live in the Gaza Strip. Crazy. Israel was responsible for that when the Zionist militias went in to illegally occupy people's fucking homes. Whoa. Yeah, it was never that crowded initially. Like, your state is the reason why they're fucking locked in. You did that. But, okay.
Including over lunch, about some countries, I won't go into them right now, that are saying, if Gazans want to leave, we want to take them in. And I think this is the right thing to do.
Again, they have said before, a lot of these countries said, no, they don't want to take them in because there were 2 million Palestinians that were living in Gaza. I know that Trump has said before in interviews, he might have let the numbers slip out a little bit, saying there's 1.6, 1.7 million. I think the population of Gaza before, because we know they're underestimating the counts, because they're operating off of official Israeli counts. Let's be fucking honest here. A lot more of them have probably died. How many Palestinians were living in Gaza? Population of Gaza. At an end of the 2024 estimate puts the population of the Strip at 2.1 million. More than likely, more have died, if I were to take a guess. Because, again, you want to know what Trump said during some of his interviews, and this could be a potential Freudian slip. He said, there's 1.6 to 1.7 million Gazans. There's just wait, I thought the casualty report saying that there was about 160,000 people died. Or at that time, 50,000. Most of whom are women and children, by the way. But, none of these people fucking give a shit about that. Why'd you say 1.6 to 1.7 million, Trump? That's a little suspicious. Just throwing that out there.
If you give it's going to take years to rebuild Gaza. In the meantime, people can have an option. The president has a vision. Countries are responding to that vision. We're working on it. I hope we'll have good news for you.
Ethnic cleansing.
Excuse me, people really do love that vision. It's a long-term vision, but so importantly is to have that be a safe field. because you're right smack in the middle of the Middle East. You're right along Israel. It should have never, ever been given away. It shouldn't have been given away by Israel. I don't know why they did it. I mean, I do know why, because they were promised peace, but that didn't work out too well, because it's one of the most dangerous pieces of land anywhere in the world. Gaza.
Again, do we really need to mention why it is now one of the most dangerous pieces of land in the world? Like, do we need to mention this? Stupid. Oh, maybe because the Israelis keep bombing the shit out of them and sort of fucking provided funding for the terrorist organization so they can have a foil to Yasser Arafat and the PLO. Crazy. Whoa, it's all caused by the Israelis. Benjamin Netanyahu himself literally started paying the fucking Hamas, because Hamas didn't used to be a terrorist organization. They became a terrorist organization after the first Intifada. That's when they became a terrorist organization and resorted to violence. They used to be primarily a charitable organization. They just expressed more religious extremist views, and in comparison to the more wholesome, I say quote-unquote wholesome nationalists, because I can't really think of a better term, that Yasser Arafat was conveying, he didn't, the Israelis, not under Netanyahu at the time, I don't remember exactly who the prime minister was at the time, was it Benjamin? I don't remember. I'm probably getting the names wrong. It doesn't really matter. They started giving money to Hamas to act as a foil to the PLO, because they didn't want any like sentimentality or favorability going to the PLO from the American side, because they knew that we may lose our support from America because of this.
It's one of the most dangerous places in the world. So they gave it away for a good intention, and it didn't work out that way. And, a lot of people like my concept, but, you know, there are other concepts that I like too.
No, they didn't give it away for good intentions. They were ordered to by the UN.
And there's some concepts I don't like. You know what I don't like the way it is now? Because right now it's a dangerous death trap, Gaza.
Yeah, because they kept getting bombed. Like, I mean, whatever.
Meeting with Vladimir Putin. Do you still plan to meet with him? Could that happen in Saudi Arabia? And maybe you could elaborate as well a little bit on not providing tariffs on Russia, sir.
So the reason we're not talking about tariffs with Russia is because we're not doing business, essentially.
Yeah, that's a really dumb question of that reporter to ask. Russia is sanctioned. Why would you tariff the Russians? They are sanctioned? What?
With Russia, because they're in a war. And I'm not happy about what's going on with the bombing, because they're bombing like crazy right now. They're bombing. I don't know what's happening there. That's not a good situation. So we're meeting with Russia. We're meeting with Ukraine. And we're getting sort of close. But I'm not happy with all the bombing that's going on in the last week or so. Horrible. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
Countries negotiate get below 10%?
In terms of tariffs?
Yes.
Look, we've been ripped off and taken advantage of for 40, 50, 60 years. And the reason we got ripped off and the way they did it was tariffs. They would charge tariffs, massive numbers of dollars.
That's just, again, we've talked about why that's just stupid and not the case. It's not because of tariffs. It's because of market deregulation and outsourcing of jobs to countries with a cheaper the ability to, to have factories there for on the cheap using their labor pool. So, stupid, very dumb. It's because of outsourcing, which you also directly support, because it's a cheaper labor pool to make cheaper goods and products. That's the point. To be honest, Trump, Biden, Kamala are all a joke. It's a giant douche for a turd sandwich. Can't really disagree with that.
And when you look at China, when I took over, it was at $507 billion they were making. I call it making. A lot of people say, oh, it doesn't mean anything, having a surplus. It means a lot, in my opinion. It's almost like a profit and loss statement. And when I took over, it was $507 billion that China, this is originally, first term, and we were very, very tough on them because they were taking that money and they were building a military with it. Then when Biden came in,
I already talked about this. This is dumb, stupid. It's not how that works.
he let him get away with murder. He had no idea. I'll tell you what, that man had no idea what was happening, whether it was the border or China or anything else. He had no idea what was going on. And they went wild. China went wild. And the money they make is ridiculous, okay? It's just not going to happen. And hopefully we'll get along with China. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's okay too. But we can't let that continue, because that's an abuse. They abused the poor people that sat in the seat. That poor Biden, he was abused by them. They took advantage of him, and I'm surprised. They have smart people. They were radical left lunatics, but they're smart. I'm surprised they allowed that to take.
I'm so confused by what he fucking means by. I mean, he has to do the stupid thing where they're so strong, but they're so weak at the same time. The constant fucking fascist doublespeak. The only trade action that I know of Biden taking in order to help shore up shitty American EVs was tariffing the shit out of Chinese EVs by what, 100%? That's like the only sort of trade action that I'm aware of, broadly speaking. So a lot of the tariffs from the Trump first term, because he put in a bunch, they were also put in place by, like, kept in place by Biden. He didn't get rid of them. So, like, I'm confused. Like, I thought the tariffs were supposed to be, like, really good and effective, but Biden kept it in place, but he got taken advantage of. Like, make it make sense, right?
Stupid to happen. But we are going to bring great trade, and we're going to be fair to other countries. And I will say this, virtually every country wants to negotiate. If I didn't do what I did over the last couple of weeks, you wouldn't have anybody wants to negotiate. We would have gone to these countries who want to talk, and they go, well, we don't want to talk. Now they're coming to us. They're offering things, like even Bibi. This is unrelated, because it's a different kind of a relationship. But he started off our conversation today that he's cutting all of the tariffs, he's cutting everything. He's going to get down to a free base. He's going to do things that, in all fairness, other countries, if they said that, would have never even thought about doing it. Now they're offering things to us.
Yeah, because it's just
never
dumb.
even thought of asking them for, because they're experiencing a lot of hurt. And the hurt is that they've taken advantage of us, and we finally fought back. Tariffs will make this country very rich. We're rich anyway, but we're rich in a certain way. We have 36 trillion.
Again, income tax. Where's the fucking Lutnick shit? Or Scott Betson? Apparently, it's going to be only $300 billion. This number does not equal 2.18 trillion. Because again, like I pointed out before, he wants to replace income tax with tariffs because he has this like weird fucking fixation with William McKinley. That's it.
$1 billion in debt. I want to get rid of it, and we can do it quickly with proper deals. So when countries don't allow us to sell our product, but we allow them to sell their product, when they charge us massive amounts of money for the privilege of going into their country, those days are over. Okay.
Me? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. President. On Iran, 2 questions, please. First, if you can give us more details about where the meeting on Saturday is going to take place.
I can just tell you there's a major meeting going on between us and Iran, and that'll take place on Saturday, and it's at the top level.
And the second question about this. A lot of people think that those talks are not going to lead anywhere because the Iranians will never be...
I think that's a possibility.
If diplomacy fails, is the United States, under your leadership, ready to take military action to destroy the Iranian nuclear program and remove this threat?
I think if the talks aren't successful with Iran, I think Iran's going to be in great danger. And I hate to say it, great danger, because they can't have a nuclear weapon. You know, it's not a complicated...
And they wouldn't have had one if you didn't tear up the JCPOA. I already said this. It was working. You tore it up because you hate black people. I'll be honest, it's because he's a racist. That's why he did it. Really, really simple.
Formula. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's all there is. You can't have it. Right now we have countries that have nuclear power that shouldn't have it, but I'm sure we'll be able to negotiate out of that too as part of this later on down the line. But Iran
Wait,
cannot have...
who has nuclear power but shouldn't have it? You can't make, like... Okay. Uranium that is used to power plants is completely different from uranium that is used for weapons. The reason why people are saying that Iran is closer than ever to a nuclear weapon now because of the JCPOA, because again, it's the International Atomic Agency, or Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA. I probably got it wrong earlier. Whatever. They went in to audit, it was about like, I think it was either 7 or 11 times. And Iran complied with the IAEA's regulations and expectations of the JCPOA 11 out of 11 times. The deal was working. This is the one of the good things that Obama did. Probably the only good thing Obama did was that deal. And that was what was preventing a nuclear weapon from being built in Iran. Now they're closer than ever because, hey, you decided to tear up that deal because it was Barack Hussein Obama who failed in Iran because I don't understand how geopolitics works, and I'm just an stooge for Israel. I love Israel, folks. But, you know, whatever.
And if the talks are successful,
Old
I
man
actually think it'll be
rambling.
a very bad day for Iran if that's the case. Yeah.
Mr. President, on manufacturing, Mr. President.
Mr. President, was October 7th the death blow of the two-state solution? And would you consider classifying the Palestinian Authority as a terrorist organization for its continued papers like terror financing payments?
So October 7th was a horrible day that some people, they deny it. Now, I can't believe they deny it from the standpoint of they do it because they think it's good politically. But I've seen the tapes, I've seen things that you don't want to see. October 7th was a horrible day, and it will go down as one of the really bad days in the history of the world. It was a horrible, horrible thing that happened. And they grabbed some of these people. I'll give you an example. When I was with the 10 hostages a few weeks ago, I said, so how many are there? 59. I said, oh, so 59, so we can get 59. They sort of knew the territory pretty good. And I said, how are they doing? They said, well...
How the fuck do those hostages know that there's 59 hostages remaining there? How do they know that those... How do those 10 know? How do they know? Did Hamas just tell them? Are there really 59 fucking hostages remaining? I don't believe that. Is that true? We know a bunch of them are dead. Because Netanyahu bombing them. Because he's just indiscriminate. He just wants Palestinian blood. We know this. Again, same shit that I mentioned earlier. But you know, Israel first. I only care about Israel.
Only 24 are living, the rest are dead. And these are young people largely. Young people don't die.
24.
You know, young people have an amazing ability to live. They can live through horrible things. But these are young people. And when they said that 24 are living and the rest are dead. And you know, I've had parents come up, Israeli parents largely.
Who killed them, Trump? Immediate question. Who's the one who killed them? Was it all Hamas? I don't think it was Hamas that killed them. Hamas would do everything possible to keep those hostages alive because, hey, guess what? In terms of negotiating pieces, Israeli hostages for Hamas are very fucking valuable. So they'll do everything possible to keep them alive. It's not, you know, the aid that's being blockaded, the food trucks that are being stopped, so they're not able to, like, fucking feed them. Or, the constant fucking bombings. Because we know, and this has been confirmed, that Israel has killed a bunch of their own hostages.
We have some Americans, and I guess we have one left. Alex, we have the one left. But I've had Israeli parents come up to me at events.
But yeah, sure, whatever.
Say, my son is there. I said, well, how's he doing? Well, he's dead. But would you do me the biggest favor ever? Could you bring his body back home? They talked about a young dead boy and a young dead girl like they were living. And that could have something to do with religion. That could have something to do with, I guess maybe any parent would be, but I was surprised. They said, sir, my son is dead. It is just as important to bring that body back home. I asked that question, as if he were alive. So you have a lot of them dead, and we'll be able to bring them back. But it's a horrible thing that's happened. These are largely young people. Some old ones too, frankly. And those people have lived in hell. When they came up, the second group that came out, they looked like they just got out of a concentration camp. They look exactly like the pictures that I see from the 1940s, the concentration camps. And then they got a little bit better, you know. But that second group, those people came out.
Just, Jesus fucking Christ, man. You know, maybe they wouldn't have looked that bad if the Israelis didn't block humanitarian aid that was going in. You know? Could have been used to feed the hostages. Because politically speaking, I talked about the fucking politics of this. Fucking Hamas wants to keep the hostages alive because they are very valuable negotiating pieces. That's why.
Out and I said, this is unbelievable. We're going back into a chapter in history that is one of the worst ever. It's really very bad. Okay?
Yeah, and you're sitting you're sitting next to the fucking guy who's perpetrating it all. But yeah, okay, sure. Actually, it's all because of Hamas. Hamas are all the Hitlers. Sure, man.
Mr. President, you said it could take 2 years to get American manufacturing fully up to speed in response to these tariffs. What happens in the meantime? Should America be prepared potentially for years?
I'll tell you what happens. We have now $7 trillion. Think of this, $7 trillion of commitments from companies wanting to go in, from Apple to many, many companies.
That takes time.
Many from Taiwan. What?
It takes time.
Of course it takes. Well, are you asking me a question or are you telling me? Yeah, it takes time. You know, you got to build a thing called a factory. You have to build your energy. You have to do...
Look at all the, like, stupid gremlins that were laughing at that question. Pretty good question by that reporter, actually. Like, hey, you're doing these fucking tariffs all willy-nilly, because I talked about the problems with these fucking tariffs. Since there's, like, literally no industrial manufacturing, like, base, not as much within the U.S. anymore, tariffs can be effective as a tool, but since there's been no subsidies or any, like, policy in order to have that manufacturing come back, like, the CHIPS Act was supposed to be a way to sort of remedy that problem, but he wants to tear it apart, so, or as far as I could tell, probably has been torn apart. America doesn't have the fucking manufacturing in order to be able to bring back those fucking jobs. They don't have the facilities because they all got fucking outsourced as a result of market deregulation and the economy changing. So, guess what? You don't have the fucking plants. You don't have the facilities. What the fuck is going to happen now? You just do the tariffs. Guess what? It's just going to raise consumer prices. That's what's going to happen. And it really will be. It'll be fucking crazy-ass Judgment Day when it's the 9th on Wednesday. And all the shit just hits the fucking fan.
A lot of things. I'm giving them energy. We're going to let them build their own power plants. They'll be their own. Essentially, they're going to be in charge of the power plant because our power is not reliable enough. You have a grid that's old and susceptible to a lot of things, including bombing and weather and a lot of other things. And
wait, I thought you had the best. Wait, hold on. I thought like the U.S. was the best at producing energy. What's happening? Now the grid it's old and unreliable. It's not good. Now we could talk like is Trump willing to do infrastructure investment? There was someone who did infrastructure investment. That was Biden, but like you've never done any of that. That didn't happen during your first term. But just it doesn't matter. Speak out of both sides of your mouth. Just say whatever. Old man dementia. Nothing matters.
We're going to give them record timing in terms of approvals of electric plants. Most of them want to build electric plants. We need massive amounts of electricity. We're going to compete with China and others. And interestingly, we're way ahead right now in the AI race with China. But the way we lose that race is if we can't give them electric.
Dude, didn't OpenAI constantly talk about how they're losing a ton of fucking money because of all the Studio Ghibli shit that they're doing? Hilarious. Yeah, you guys are very far ahead in terms of AI. I totally fucking believe that.
But we have more plants being built. We have everything. We're doing so great. And we want to keep it that way. And tariffs will be an important part of it. But one of the other things, Lee Zeldin's doing a fantastic job, head of environmental protection. And he's doing very rapid approvals for people for big companies that are going to build a plant that's going to cost billions of dollars.
Hey, all those streams, creeks, rivers, and everything, time for them to get way, way fucking worse. Yeah, OpenAI relies on VC funding just like Uber does. Yep.
We're going to get them their approvals. They have to be environmentally perfect, everything good, but they're going to be in record time. A matter of months versus a matter of many, many years.
Lisa Rosowski from Tariffs. Turkey claims it will stabilize the situation in Syria.
Turkey?
Yeah. Israel doesn't want Turkey to influence it.
So that was what a reporter from Haaretz, I believe, she said. Haaretz, if I recall correctly, one of the better publications that comes that's out of Israel.
What do you think? Do you think Turkey's influence in Syria can actually make it a better, more peaceful country, or vice versa?
Well, I have great relations with a man named Erdogan. Have you heard of him? And I happen to like him, and he likes me, and I know the press will get very angry. He likes Erdogan, but I do, and he likes me, and we've never had a problem.
Lib Zionist newspaper. They're decent. Yeah. They're not, God, who's the best one? I forget their fucking name. It's not Times of Israel. They're dog shit. Haaretz is like, Lib. They're like okay. God, I'm blanking on it so fucking hard. I know which one it is. Or no, I'm thinking of the Israeli humanitarian organization, I think. No, I'm thinking of the humanitarian I'm thinking of something completely different.
And we've gone through a lot, and we've never had a problem. We've always got, as you remember, we got our minister back from Turkey. You remember that? And
so currently, I haven't talked much about what's going on in Turkey, but in Turkey, there's currently huge fucking protests against B'Tselem. Thank you. I am thinking of B'Tselem. But there's currently huge protests going on in Turkey against Erdogan because he tried to... Did he jail his opponent? He tried to, I know that. Who's like the current, I think, mayor of Istanbul, which was Erdogan's like old stomping grounds. But now they fucking hate him, and I think like constantly vote in the main like opposition leaders to his party in elections. I think, and it is assumed that if an election happens in Turkey, he's going to be the main opponent. He is in jail, which is why there's protests going on right now, because he got jailed civilly for basically, well, no reason, being an opponent of Erdogan. Because again, Erdogan is a dictator, effectively a dictator. So of course Trump likes him because he's a dictator.
This was a big deal at the time, and we got him back. And I told the Prime Minister, I said, just, maybe, if you have a problem with Turkey, I really think I'm going to be able to work it out. I have a very, very good relationship with Turkey, with their leader, and I think we'll be able to work it out. So I hope that's not going to be a problem. I don't think it will be a problem. Now, with that being said, I believe it was Turkey, and I said that to him. I said it. I said, congratulations. You've done what nobody's been able to do in 2,000 years. You've taken over Syria. with different names, but same thing. I said, you've taken it over. He's taken it over through surrogates. He goes, no, it was not me. I said, it was you, but that's okay. You don't have to say, well, sort of maybe it was me. Okay. But what he did, look, he's a tough guy. He's very...
So yeah, HTS is the I believe he's the sort of Syrian nationalistic like coalition backed by Turkey, who are currently bombing a lot of the or they're attacking a bunch of like minority populations, like, and people aligned with the SDF and the YPG, I believe. So there's still instability in Syria because of, well, HTS being like, yeah, we're just gonna kill them. Fuck it. We don't like these guys anyways. And the Turks are giving us money, so fuck it. Whatever. YOLO.
Very smart. And he did something that nobody was able to do. You know, you got to hand it to him. Any problem that you have with Turkey, I think I can solve. I mean, as long as you're reasonable. You have to be reasonable. We have to be reasonable. Thank you very much, everyone.
Alright, well, I guess that's the end of that. I mean, you know, insanity, stupid. He just lied most of the time. Most of the stuff you can't even, like, really push back against because it's just, like, old man rambling nonsense. Like, what else is there to really say here? He just lies. I'm shocked they didn't punch a wall. I mean, you know, besides lying about the tariffs, besides lying about the history, Benjamin Netanyahu lying about everything, you know, justifying colonialism. Hey, he's really the anti-war candidate. Trump is. Yeah, totally, man. For sure. Like, I mean, it's just lies. And this is why it's like, it's really, like, I don't know how long I've spent on. I've probably spent like 2 hours on this. Just talking about all the fucking nonsense. We all remember, like, the sort of principle. Like, it's so easy to spout out so much fucking bullshit constantly that it takes way longer to fucking debunk all of it. So it's like, Jesus Christ. What is the fucking point? Of course, like, people fucking fall for stuff like this because so much shit just gets thrown on the wall that, well, some of it just sticks. And it sticks with other people in particular, especially people who seem to lack a lot of critical thinking ability, who are conservatives. Calling a fucking spade here. I mean, it's like what can you do? It's very, very difficult to effectively push back against all this stuff. But you have to try. It is what it is, unfortunately. It is what it is.